If you click this video, chances are either you stay too long in the wrong relationships or you sabotage the good ones. And here's why that matters more than you think. The success of your romantic relationships is one of the strongest indicators of long-term wealth and success in life. I learned this firsthand. I went from being single, not having money, and being unhappy to finding the right partner for me on Bumble of all things and building a multi-million-dollar business and a 10-year marriage with him. And it all came down to learning 6 key lessons. Lesson number 1, be freaking real. If you cannot handle the truth, you will never have a successful relationship. I used to think that protecting people's feelings was kindness, and I was wrong. It is not kindness, it is cowardice. Okay, when Alex and I first met, I would stonewall this guy for weeks rather than saying what was actually bothering me. Why is it that we do that? Because honest conversations, they feel risky. What if he disagrees? What if he decides to leave? What if he thinks I suck? What if he thinks I'm an awful person? What if he thinks I'm crazy? What if he said something in response that makes me feel worse about myself? What if who I am is simply not good enough for this person? But here's the thing, if someone can't handle the truth, then they can't handle being in a relationship. I'm serious, guys. Relationships built off niceties, they are not relationships, they are prisons, because then you have to be somebody that you're not to remain in it. They end up diluting you, they are not who you really are, and eventually they create resentment because you feel like you constantly have to put on a mask for somebody else. When something's wrong, I say it immediately, not out of anger, not out of frustration, but out of desire to have a great relationship, because I know that can only exist if I am incredibly honest with my partner. This bothered me. Here's why it bothered me. I would love if you did this differently next time. It is super uncomfortable for like 60 seconds while you're saying it, and then it's over, compared to weeks of silent resentment and discontent. And I think many people have felt that way. The best relationships are the ones where both people understand that there is a short-term sting of whatever the truth is, but they know that it's far better than the long-term consequences of not telling it. And if you do it long enough, no truth is too big or too important or too embarrassing to shake your relationship because you have proof you can handle it. And if this feels really hard for you, I would give you one tip that I did in my relationship that helped a lot. If we're feeling like it's heated and we're not being honest with each other about something, then we just physically separate and just text each other. I'm gonna take the time, I'm gonna write out to you what it is. Because what I have found is that slight bit of friction between like you think it and you have to write it, it is longer than think it, say it, right? It's like emotional vomit. If you have a problem with that, you have trouble and you emotionally tend to vomit on your partner and it hurts the relationship, ask them if you can text them. Ask them if you can write them a letter. Anything in written, because it puts friction. And then when you see it written down, you're like, you will know. Is this gonna piss them off? Is this gonna make them like me less? Is this gonna sound secretly like a, passive aggressive? Or is this setting us up for a really honest conversation? And I would say that because I know a lot of people watching this video, it probably feels heavy and you get really nervous and it doesn't come out right. Like there are no rules. If it comes out better in written form, do that until you learn how to say it in a way that feels good for you. The second lesson is that you grow or you get left behind. This is the #1 reason that great relationships die. One person evolves and the other does not. I see it constantly in business partnerships, actually. There's 2 founders. One starts reading, they're taking courses, they're pushing intellectual boundaries. They're like constantly uncomfortable trying to get better as a founder, as a leader, as a person. And within 18 months, they can barely have a conversation with their other partner because they're operating from completely different levels, completely different operating lenses. Now, unfortunately, the same thing happens in marriage, in friendships, in family. So you're like, well, what do we do? The solution is not that one person should stop growing. It's actually that you should grow together. There's one thing that one of my first mentors told me and Alex. He said, so this is very scientific sounding, expose yourself to the same stimulus. If you go to a meetup, you go with her. If you read this book, he reads this book. If you listen to this person, you listen to this person. What Alex and I did is we said, you know what we're gonna do is every quarter, we're gonna set shared goals, not just business goals, but learning goals, experience goals. This year, we're both gonna work on this. This year, we're both gonna try this. This year, we're both gonna go to this. Now, does that mean you need to learn absolutely everything together? No, but it is good to have shared interest, values, and mission. And when you grow in parallel, you stay connected. When you grow apart, you become strangers and you feel like you're talking to somebody, but they're not seeing life through the same lens. And oftentimes, it's simply because you have different information you're working with. If you both take in the same information, 1, you can still have a great conversation because you have different perspectives on it. But 2, you're exposed to the same information, which means that you're both learning at the same rate. The truth is, It takes a lot of work to stay connected like that. Just because you are that way in the beginning, it does not mean that you will be that way forever. If you are not intentional about it, you will grow apart. I see it happen all the time. It takes way more effort to remain in a relationship than it does to grow apart in a relationship. I can tell you because I fight for my marriage on a daily basis. I fight for my business partnerships on a daily basis. I fight for my friendships on a daily basis. That is why people who share big responsibilities like raising kids, building a business, or pursuing some sort of mission together to better the world are more likely to stay together because they're not just coexisting, they're actually actively building something together where they both want to consume the same information to get better at building that thing. They both want to read the parenting book because they both want to be better parents. And when one is a better parent, it's better for the other one too. The best relationships are partnerships in that growth. The goal is to learn together, work on something together, and build a life where every improvement in one person also benefits the other person. Now, growing together is essential, but you can also take it too far. Which brings me to this lesson, which is distance builds desire. Okay, and this is very counterintuitive. It is so true, okay? The more space you have, the closer that you can actually get. Okay, I understand this because when Alex and I first met, we did everything together. We worked on the same stuff at the same time. We ate the same food. We went to the gym at the same time together with the same trainer. We talked to the same people. We texted the same people. We watched the same stuff. And eventually it was like, I'm so sick of you. I am bored. Right? We were bored of each other. And our desire for more of each other actually started to fade. And I remember talking to somebody about this and they said, you need enough space to be missed. And so what did we do? We said, let's change our environment. We know we love each other. We know that we desire each other, but we are just too familiar to each other right now. And so what we did is we deliberately engineered our environments to create that space. What do you know? That desire for closeness turned back on almost immediately. And you wanna hear the funny thing about the space? It was so simple. The biggest thing we did is we were working in the same room every day and then put Alex's office in the upstairs left wing, my office in the downstairs right wing. That alone went from us seeing each other 8 hours a day minimum to not seeing each other unless we made an effort. And here's the thing that I've realized from working with my spouse, working with my partner, and building a life together. I am the most attracted to my husband when he is deep into something that I am not a part of, that he is very skilled at, and that maybe I don't even know as much about. When he comes home and he's super excited about a project or an insight that is purely his and that he is lit up about and that he's very good at, that version of him, the one that I don't completely know, that is what's magnetic to me. And so what I learned through this is that constant closeness kills curiosity. When you're always together with somebody with the same schedule, same friends, same conversations, you stop being curious about each other. You stop being interesting to each other. So great relationships have two forces. It's a dichotomy. It's security and desire. Security comes from commitment. Desire comes from mystery, comes from space. But without both of those things, love either feels like it's unstable or it feels like your siblings. Lesson number 4 is that you want to regulate, then relate. Most people think they know how to handle conflict, but the truth is they actually are really good at making it worse. I used to think that the secret to better arguments was better communication, but that is actually not true. Because when one of you, only one of you, is dysregulated, no amount of communication skills will matter, even if you're speaking the same language. I realized this because I looked back at every argument that Alex and I had ever had. Which ones were unproductive? It was always the arguments where one or both of us were dysregulated. Now, what does dysregulated mean? It means tired, hungry, emotional, distracted. The ones that were productive, we were calm. We weren't hungry, we weren't tired. It wasn't late at night or early in the morning or between a meeting. And so once I saw this, I tried this hack and it felt really silly at first, but it really did change so much for us. When you start escalating with your partner, with your friend, with whoever it is, doesn't matter who it is. You can do it with everyone as long as hugs are okay. This is what you're gonna do. You're gonna get physical. You are just going to hug the person. 3 minutes. Breathe with that person. That's it. Why? Because our breath tells our body a lot. We have to think about this. We had breath before we had language. Your nervous system will listen to how you breathe and your stress hormones will drop. Suddenly, you will be able to think clearly. Should we be talking about this right now? Do I want to talk about this right now? Is this productive for our relationship? Should we just go have something to eat? Maybe I'm just hungry. Gives you that pause. So when you're stressed and your nervous system's activated, everything's gonna feel like a threat, including your partner and what they say, and that is why fights escalate. And so what you wanna do is first regulate yourself so you can de-escalate the situation before it becomes catastrophic. Because most fights are not even about the topic that you're fighting about. They are about emotional regulation. If you remember this, you will stop losing hours of pointless arguments and you will start solving problems in minutes. because most problems don't take that long to solve. But even when you want to learn to regulate, conflict is still inevitable at some point. Which brings me to lesson 5. If you want a successful relationship, you need to be good at fixing fast. Most people spend their energy trying not to screw up. Now, where do successful people spend their energy? Trying to get good at fixing what they just screwed up. That's the only difference. We don't fail less over here. We just get up faster. So for example, Alex and I never try to avoid conflict. Trust me, we don't. We try to be good at recovery. Can we restart this conversation? I handled that badly. Let me try again. Can we redo that? This allows us to cut arguments short before they start spiraling so that we can bounce back and we can get into connection quickly again, instead of wasting hours or days on feeling distant when we're back on the same team in minutes. So what this means is that it's not about avoiding the conflict. It's about repairing quickly. Healthy relationships, they can argue or be discontent for 10 minutes and they don't let it spiral into a 10-hour or 10-day fight. Instead, they say, okay, let's move on. We can have a good rest of the day. We can be nice to each other. We can hug. We can repair. Every successful repair proves that the relationship can survive damage, which makes it stronger for the next time. Every failed repair leaves a crack where it feels weak. Perfect relationships do not exist. Perfect relationships do not exist. Perfect relationships do not exist. Resilient ones do. The only difference is how quickly you repair after you mess up. And I understand that sometimes your ego will not like it, but your relationship and your happiness will. Now, even if you get good at repairing, there is one more thing that decides whether a relationship lasts, which brings me to our last lesson, which is pick a North Star. You can survive fights and you can survive failures, but if you do not have a single vision that you're working towards, your relationship will eventually break apart. For example, my husband and I have completely different personalities, but we have identical values around building things that last, treating people fairly, not taking shortcuts, doing the hard work, improving ourselves. And having that alignment, that is actually what carries us through everything else. Even when we disagree on strategy, we still agree on the overall direction where we want to end up. Oftentimes, when we're discussing something, I think we should do this, he thinks we should do this, we come back to one question. Well, what information leads you to think that? Because when you know that you both want to end up in the same place and you have different ideas of how to get there, then the likelihood that you're using the same information is low. So it's like, what information do you have that I don't have? What I've learned through doing that is that personality differences, they are negotiable and they will always exist and they're good. It's good to have differences with your partner. But value differences are tough. You say, what information are you working with? And you actually find that you have the same information. You just want to go in different directions. You can work around somebody who's messier than you, who's more introverted than you, more spontaneous than you, but it's very hard to work around somebody who fundamentally has different beliefs about integrity, work ethic, honesty, and what actually matters in life, where you should end up. Shared values are the foundation of any great relationship, and without them, nothing that you build together will last. So what you want to do if you're in a relationship and you're like, I don't actually know, define them with your partner. Then commit to them. We decide that, you know what, these are what we commit to, which means we don't commit to the other things, and then we build our relationship around them. Having a great relationship is not about having a perfect relationship. Having a great relationship is about having the tools to repair and to fix and to communicate in a way that leads you to grow through every setback, every fight, and every argument, rather than shrink. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to learn how to command respect in every relationship, go ahead and check out my video on how the top 1% do.